Yep.
All right, I think we've got all our virtual attendees signed in and ready to go. So I'll go ahead and call our meeting for April the 11th to order. And if you would, please stand, and I'm going to ask Mayor Jan Yantz to lead us in a pledge of allegiance, and that'll be followed by our invocation by Judge Curtis. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in prayer. Father, today we pause to give thanks to you for all of the blessings that you have so richly bestowed upon our lives. I thank you for Judge Newcomb and his leadership. I thank you for Jason Vincent and his staff, for what they mean to this region. And God, for those community leaders that are here today, I thank you for them. I pray that you will bless us as we are involved in our communities, and not only that you might bless our communities, but this state and this nation. God, guide us. May we always look to you for direction. We praise your name. We love you. And again, we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate that. First item of business on our agenda is approval of the minutes. And if you've had a chance to take a look through those, I would entertain a motion regarding the approval of the minutes. All right, motion by Scott Marshall, second by Mayor Cotton. Any questions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. At this time, I would ask that Chrissy Carter come forward to present our financial report, please.
Thanks for reminding me. Good afternoon. We should be at 75% to be in line with the budget, and overall we are at 53.51%. We are at 48% of our revenues, and then all line items are within budget. That's all.
All right, motion by Mayor Cotton to approve the financial report as presented, second by Mayor Yantz. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, next item is on the agenda is our federal and state reports. And first on the list is Miss Morgan Alvey. And Morgan, are you with us? Oh, I'm sorry. I got so used to seeing you up there on the screen. I'm sorry. Here, wait a minute.
I'm short. Thank you. Yeah. No, it's nice to be back in person. I was just telling somebody earlier that it's kind of hard now to shift back to Zoom. You know, there are a few meetings that I still have that are on Zoom. So it's really nice to be back in person. I'll be brief. There's just a few items that I want to bring your attention to. A lot has happened over the last month or two. We've had some bills introduced. The government funding bill passed that had a lot of good Kentucky and Western Kentucky priorities. Just want to highlight a few of those. I see Corey Elder on the screen from Congressman Comer's office, and I'm sure he'll talk about this as well. But last week, Senator McConnell and Congressman Comer introduced a Land Between the Lakes bill. I know Judge White has worked with us on that, as has Judge Alexander, and a lot of other locals whose this is a very important issue too. But hopefully we can get that passed. But it would steer financial resources to LBL. It's called the Land Between the Lakes Recreation and Heritage Act. So just want to thank all of the locals. It truly was a collaborative effort between our office and Congressman Comer's office, but also with our local officials and stakeholders who this issue is really important to. So I can't say enough about what a collaborative grassroots effort this bill really was. Just a couple of other things I'll highlight that are tornado related, a couple of provisions. One provision that was in the government funding bill traveling around with the senator in the aftermath of the tornadoes, and as well as my own travel, one of the issues that I heard most from our local officials was how important raising the FEMA cost share was. And so Senator McConnell was able to get that boosted to 90% from the normal 75%. So now 90% will be covered by the federal government. And again, I thank our local officials because that was one of the things that we heard most traveling around the state. And then another tornado recovery related item. Also last month, the senator announced that nearly $75 million in CDBG DR funding will be made available stemming from those disasters. So if, as always, if there's ever anything that our office can be of assistance with, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Morgan, and I apologize for not noticing you were here in public. I told everyone, if you all see me up here doing this number and thing, I've been able to get by with cheaters for several years, and about 2 weeks ago, they made me get these on, and it's got this little line under it, and I'm dizzy and I can't see, and I've got all this blockage. I'm not used to wearing glasses, so I apologize for whatever may happen with respect to my lack of vision, or hopefully better at some point. All right, joining us online is Jason Hassert with Senator Paul's office. So Jason.
Hello, it's good to be here for Senator Paul. The senator is traveling in Eastern Kentucky this week, but one of the things that he recently had passed in the Senate was a resolution to repeal the mandate on masks for air travel, and that passed the Senate in March 57-40, and he continues to question a lot of the restrictions that are still in place as far as our economy and things like that with the mandates from the federal government, and he will continue to question them and push where it is needed. I know that also there's a lot of travel grants or construction grants and things for road projects and things like that coming up this spring. Senator Paul is always happy to support those. If you have a grant application or something coming up, please let me know, and he'll be happy to review that. And he will look forward to visiting the PAD region later this spring in person. And also, if any of the counties impacted by the tornadoes, as always, have any issues or needs, please let me know, and Senator Paul will be happy to help. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jason. And then we also have with us virtually Mr. Corey Elder with Congressman Comer's office. Corey.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here virtually. I wish I could be there in person today. It just didn't work out in my schedule for some reason. But I just want to highlight a few brief things with you all. The postal reform bill, I believe I mentioned it last time. It had passed the House last time, but it's now been signed into law by President Biden. And Congressman Comer's just really happy of the work that went into that bipartisan bill. I don't know if you've seen Congressman Comer on Fox News recently about some of the oversight committee's dealings, but it's definitely been heating up with some interactions between some White House officials and Hunter Biden. It just brings up a few ethical issues, and Congressman Comer has been at the forefront of that issue. As Morgan mentioned, Senator McConnell and Congressman Comer worked really hard on this LBL bill. It just really goes back to the principles that LBL was founded on, and it's just trying to get back to those principles. And it really was a lot of work to get this bill with all the shareholders. As Morgan mentioned, it really was a grassroots bill. We're going to be traveling within the region soon, and I look forward to reaching out to several of you all as we make stops, and be good to catch up with you all with the congressman. But if y'all have any grants, as Jason was mentioning, we'll be happy to write a letter of support as well. I know a lot of the competitive infrastructure grants are going to be coming up soon, but we look forward to working with you all on that. Thank you so much.
Corey and Morgan and Jason, and of course, Rachel McCoven, I just want to say thank you to you all for helping us get meetings scheduled with our folks in DC. We were able to meet with all three of our representatives up there, and it had a lot to do with you three helping us out with that. So thank you all very much for doing that for us.
All right, we'll move on then to our state reports, and Representative Prunty, would you like to come forward after a busy session?
Good afternoon. It's good to be here in person. I brought a cheat sheet. I've got 27 pages of summaries, but of course, we go back tomorrow night. We'll be there Wednesday, Thursday to finish up the session, but I'm real proud of a lot of the work that we've done thus far. We passed all the budgets, record budget, House Bill 1, bipartisan accolades for one of the best budgets in decades. Of course, we had a lot of extra money come in, and we've tried to allocate it wisely. We've gone from 7 to 9 days of having reserves, which you're supposed to have 45. We've gone up to 40. We had 40 days of reserves now in the trust fund for in case for economic development investment that might come up quickly or emergencies. All the coal severance money is supposed to be coming back to coal county producing counties. There's money in there for the Madisonville Community College Aviation Program and money for a feasibility study for Madisonville's law enforcement training center that they want to produce. We did all the redistricting. We had unemployment insurance reform, disaster relief for Western Kentucky, permanently lowering state motor vehicle taxes, public assistance reform, which I think it has been much needed, and hopefully we'll get more folks in the workforce, tax modernization, resource recovery, allowing recycling of plastics that wouldn't typically be recycled. And I'd love to have one of those in Western Kentucky. The issuance and renewal of licenses for military spouses, since we are down here around Fort Campbell. Unemployment insurance tax relief for employers, increased access to GEDs. This will allow 17-year-olds to start working on a GED if they realize they're not going to be ready to graduate, so they won't get behind their peers, and hopefully they'll get out, get some training, and get in the workforce. The biennial highway construction plan and the establishment of TIDs, the Transportation Improvement Districts. Expanding broadband access, rural hospital loan fund was improved. The funding for the ads, I figured you'd be happy about that, Jason. The Kentucky Product Development Initiative, codifying that, so for economic development sites, and some money's coming back to Western Kentucky and rural areas that need that. Water Management Assistance Fund administered by KIA for capital and non-capital expenses of governmental entities that provide water and wastewater. So we did lots for mental health and also for healthcare worker shortage. So real proud of the work that we've done thus far. And like I say, I've got a 27-page summary if you need any more details. So thank you. It's always good to be here.
Thank you, Representative Prunty. And also with us is Representative Thomas. So, Representative.
All right, Melinda, I was a little worried when you said you had 27 pages. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? A couple ones, of course, we are going to be going and overriding some governor vetoes Wednesday and Thursday. So probably some long days and nights. And some of you all have been there. So look forward to that. Some of the ones that I know should gain some steam and we probably will override is the Save Women's Sports Act. I'm going to be pushing very hard to override HB 8, which is the tax reform for all of us in this area. We really realize how important it is to step that income tax level down and try to get it to zero eventually. Will we get there? It'll take a while. With the Senate's version, I think it can only trigger about 0.5 point per year. So minimum to get it to zero, since we're at 5% right now, is going to be about 10 years. So, but we're doing some other things and trying to modernize that tax code. One of them I was hoping to get passed through, and I know it's over in the Senate. I don't even know how the governor feels about it. I think it's HB 475, which kind of is a constitutional amendment that lets the voters decide how we can kind of go ahead and take some of these restrictions off of how we tax things. I think that would be very instrumental to most of our areas down in this area too. So I was kind of hoping that went before the before the governor override period, veto period. So it didn't, but we'll see. We have a couple more days. I'm surprised Melinda's been a big fighter for HB 3, which is our pro-life bill. We're in baby feet today, and she's fought hard for that. So I imagine that's also another one we'll override. I know some of them are still on life support, medical marijuana and the sports betting. Those are both sitting there, and we'll see what happens in those. So if there's anything I can ever help you all with, please reach out, and it's an honor to serve you. Thanks.
While you all are still here, I just wanted to, you mentioned the additional funds for the Area Development District. This was historic. and I really appreciate what you all did for us. And I hope I'm not stealing too much of Amy's thunder. She may be planning to talk about this, but they increased the funding that supports Amy's staff and the work that we do for all of our communities, all of our cities, and all of our counties. They basically doubled the amount of state funds that the area development districts get on an annual basis. Those funds have not been increased since 1998. So it's been a long time. We've seen a lot of decreases since 1998. So for you all to do what you did for us, those of you all that have been around for a while know that I would rather the area development district sort of fly underneath the radar screen during the legislative sessions. But this year, I'm glad we didn't, because it's going to mean hopefully more enhanced services for you all at the local level. And I think Amy's definitely excited about that. Now we got to get to work. You all put the money there. Now we've got to get to work. And I also want to say, Representative Jason Petrie from Logan and Todd County, he was the one that drove a lot of that discussion as the chair of House A&R. So we very much appreciate what they did. So thank you all.
Thank you, Jason, and well stated. And we look forward to Amy's comments on that as well. Moving forward, we also have with us with the governor's office and DLG, Mr. Alex Caudell. So Alex, come forward and share a few words.
Thank you, Judge. Great to be back with you all in person today. Wanted to give a shout out to the PAD staff and board and Jason. You all came up and gave a wonderful presentation on economic development properties in the region last month to the cabinet and the governor, and that went very well, and definitely one of the top presentations from across the state. So kudos to you all for doing that. The governor's been busy in the PAD region announcing more clean water project funding and some transportation funding as well. He's been in Hopkins County and Crittenden County and Livingston with announcements the last few weeks. And again, appreciate the staff here for putting in such quality applications, and congratulations to all of our mayors and judges on that. One announcement, wanted to invite you all. Tomorrow, the governor will be in Madisonville for a 4 p.m. economic development announcement at Alstrom Monks Joe. So hope to see you all there. And thank you, Judge and Mayor, for helping us put that together. A couple of quick reminders, and Amy will probably touch on this too. We do have some grant applications open right now for CDBGs, Land and Water Conservation Fund, and Rec Trails too. So those are all open if you're interested in applying for those. And an early save the date. Our local issues conference is back on, and that'll be August 17th through the 19th in Louisville at the Galt House. So I hope to see you all then, and feel free to give me a call if you ever need anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And also with the governor's office and DLG, one of the most recent additions to the governor's team, Miss Martha Jane King. There she is. I thought I saw you back there earlier. Thank you. See, I'm telling you, these glasses.
I've got contacts and glasses, so don't say anything. I hate to say it, but there's absolutely nothing to say that the legislators and Alex hasn't already said. We appreciate too, Brad, more than anything, and what you all have tried to do. Jason, I really appreciate you guys going down to Bremen and helping the mayor down there. They've had a difficult situation in Bremen, and I know the judge and everybody's been involved in trying to help them get things sorted out. So I do appreciate that. There's only one little caveat. The $75 million that's coming our way for disaster relief. I did hear that that's got to be shared not only with the tornado victims, but with the flood victims in Eastern Kentucky. So it sounds like a lot of money, but when you stretch it out all over Kentucky, it doesn't really impact everybody that much. But that being the end of the line money, the caboose money, it will cover things that nothing else will cover. So I know that that'll be helpful. Anyway, you know, I'm a politician or was, I could talk a lot, but at this point, I'll sit down and say, thank you very much. And hopefully next time if I go behind all these guys, I'm not going to have anything to say either. So we'll see. Thank you all.
We'll see if we can't bump you up in the order, Ms. King. All right. Also with us today is Mr. Doug Taylor, Representative with Transportation. All right. Thank you, Doug. Always appreciate your help and hard work on our behalf with transportation issues. And then lastly, with us today is Mr. Charles Turner, Director of our Pennyrile RC&D. And Charles, would you like to say a few words maybe about clean water, just real quick? I know I caught you off guard, probably.
Thank you. Hopefully, you all have already heard that we will be recognizing and promoting Water Week, May the 9th through the 14th. And that will culminate with a water festival on the 14th here in Hopkinsville at Jeffers Bend Environmental Center. And that time is from 1 to 5 p.m. And as we had said in all our previous meetings, we want this truly to be a regional activity. You know, sometimes we have an issue in crossing the line to support various counties and doing that. So we done had the meeting, every meeting we say we want to make this really a regional operation, promoting and publicizing water in the 9-county Pennyrile area. And I hope everybody have gotten those flyers and so forth. If not, we'll work through Jason and Kyle and get that to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate all your work and leadership on that effort, as well as the many judges and county representatives that are a part of that. All right. Have I missed anyone at all? Look, get my glasses focused here. No? All right. We'll move on then to our agency reports. And the first up is Miss Jill Collins with our report on the Agency for Aging and Independent Living.
Good afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit today about our federal priorities as those pertain to services that are funded through the Older Americans Act. So Tim, okay, there we go. So the 2022 priorities have been released by US Aging, and US Aging is formerly known as the National Association of Area Agencies on Aging. We refer to them as N4A, and that is our voice in Washington, DC, as it pertains to legislation that impact our programs on the federal level. So one of the first priorities we're going to talk about is to invest in cost-effective home and community-based services and what the role of the area agencies on aging looks like in that. So for nearly 50 years, the area agencies on aging, they've served as the local leaders on aging for planning, development, funding, and implementing local systems of home and community-based services. So what does that look like for us here on the local level? Just to give you an example, those services would include our nutrition programs, services such as our congregate meals and home delivered meals. It also would include our supportive services through the Older Americans Act, which would include transportation services, which are vital in our area for our rural clients that we serve. Next priority that they're going to focus on is to promote successful healthy aging in community. We want individuals to be able to stay in their home and in their community as they age. So what does the role of the Area Agency on Aging look like with that? In addition to providing the wide range of home and community-based services, the AAAs also serve older adults in need of additional services and their caregivers. The AAAs are the local leaders in implementing the National Family Caregiver Support Program, in developing programs to reduce social isolation and loneliness in older adults providing evidence-based health promotion programs, again, supporting transportation, preventing elder abuse, and much more. We here at the AAA are also the leader at our local level with the National Family Caregiver Support Program. We do a lot of work with caregivers to prevent burnout, and we work very closely with the Alzheimer's Association in dealing with how to care for individuals with Alzheimer's and other related forms of dementia. Connecting. We want to make sure that we're able to connect the healthcare sector along with the aging sector to reduce cost. So what does the role of the Area Agency on Aging look like with that? So as a longstanding trusted community resource on healthy aging and home and community-based services, the AAAs are experts at providing programs and care that address social and environmental factors that affect health outcomes. These are called social determinants of health. And I've talked a lot about these over the last couple of years, but it's not limited to providing access to housing, employment, nutritious food, community service, transportation, and other forms of social support. So for us, that includes our Aging and Disability Resource Center, which is our one-stop shop to access services, whether it's for someone that's aging or disabled, our SHIP program, our information and referral services, and more specifically, our veteran-directed care program. And that is where we connect locally with the health sector. We have 2 contracts with our VA medical centers, one in Nashville, Tennessee, and one in Marion, Illinois. In 2018, there was a study done, and as a result of that study, currently there are 31% of the area agencies on aging nationwide that report involvement with that veterans program. Here locally, we've been involved and fully implemented since 2016 with the veterans program. We were the first area development district and area agency on aging in Kentucky to implement those services to veterans that reside in our area. Since that time, you all know we've expanded into Tennessee as well, and we can continue to serve veterans in Kentucky and Tennessee. Strengthen. We want to strengthen supports systems to support an aging America. And for the area agencies on aging, we played a key in being able to keep older adults at home during the pandemic, but we also saw areas that could be strengthened and changes that we could make. To play these key roles, we depended upon a reliable workforce. We need access to technology and cooperation and partnership with other public systems contributing to the health of older adults, such as public health and our emergency preparedness systems. So during the pandemic, our services did look a lot different, but there were no gaps in services, and we were able to continue to serve those individuals, even though that service may have looked a little bit different. So these are the priorities at the federal level that we're going to be talking about throughout 2022 as those relate to the Older Americans Act programs. There's also a handout in your packet that looks like this if you want to just kind of glance over that just a little bit, but this will be your federal priorities moving forward for 2022. And then the other thing I want to bring to your attention is also in your packet, and that is our waiting list for services. And I have that broken down by county and by service. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to address any questions about those after the meeting. Or you can contact me here at the office at any time. And so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jill. And now I would like to ask Miss Amy Frobe to come forward and present the Community and Economic Development Report.
It shouldn't take me very long after Alex and Jason have already covered all of my material. But I do want to ditto what Jason said and express our thanks for that funding. Just to give you all a point of reference, when I started with the ad back in 2002, the Community and Economic Development Department had a staff of about 15. As we currently operate today, we have 5 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff. So that funding is going to go a long ways in helping us staff back up and provide you all the services that you need. And hopefully I won't have to color my hair quite as often to cover up the gray. But there are some programs that are currently open right now, as Alex mentioned, that I wanted to bring to your attention. And all of this information should be in your packet as well as in the newsletter. The first opportunity that I want to cover is the Delta Regional Authority Grant. This is an annual grant opportunity that is available to our cities, counties, and nonprofit entities in our region. We have a lot of nonprofit hospitals and health care organizations that take advantage of this opportunity, as well as our local community colleges. Under the DRA program, again, I mentioned our cities, counties, and those nonprofits are eligible to apply. The four primary funding categories that DRA focuses on are basic public infrastructure, which is our water, sewer facilities, electric and gas utilities, as well as GIS and broadband activities. Transportation infrastructure, that includes roadways, bridges, rail, and port facilities, as well as airports. The Madisonville Airport received quite a chunk of money in the last couple of years to do some improvements up there with the Madisonville Community College and their aviation training program. Business development activities with an emphasis on entrepreneurship, business creation, business retention, and expansion activities, and then workforce development activities, which includes job training or employment-related education. For DRA's application requirements, excuse me, in the 2022 CDAP allocation, which is their state's economic development allocation, Kentucky is receiving about $1.7 million. That's an increase of about $400,000 over last year's allocation, which is good news for Kentucky. In Kentucky, only the Purchase, Pennyrile, and Green River area development districts are eligible for that funding. So all of that $1.7 million will be coming to Western Kentucky. This year, the CIF, which is the Community Infrastructure Fund allocation, is $30 million. That is double what it was last year. It was only $15 million last year. So that's a great opportunity there for us to get some funding for our larger infrastructure projects in the region. Our eligible entities must submit an application through us. We can assist you with putting that application together, or we can help you in that review process as well. Those applications will be due on June the 5th of this year. DRA does divide their applications into tiers. And for a tier 1 application, that means you have all of your local match or your match funding sources in place, and that you have a job creation component to that project. And they will receive priority in funding. There is not a match required for DRA. However, they do highly recommend it. They highly recommend about 10% on match for those projects that are outside of the business development and workforce development activities. That 10% match is required for business development and workforce applications. The second one that I want to go over that Alex mentioned as well is the Community Development Block Grant Program. This is also an annual federal grant program that is operated through the Department for Local Government. And this is for activities that cover a wide variety of projects that benefit our communities. For the 2022 allocation, Kentucky is receiving over $26.5 million. And you can see the breakdown on the funds there and how they're divided into the various categories. And again, there's a handout in the packet on this information as well. For community development block grant projects, they must address one of what they call 3 national objectives, meaning that it must benefit at least 51% low to moderate income persons, prevent or eliminate slum and blight, or meet an urgent or community development need, such as disaster recovery. In the past, the state has allocated some funds to disaster recovery efforts where those funds are needed. The primary funding area ceilings, Community Emergency Relief Fund, typically that's determined based on need. We've seen those caps around $250,000 in the past, should the state decide to put funding into that category. For community projects, these are projects like your health departments, fire stations, improvement to your senior centers. The cap on that is $750,000 per project. Under economic development, excuse me. For traditional projects, the cap on those applications is $1 million or $20,000 per job created with those economic development activities. Under non-traditional, it's $250,000. Under housing, $1 million is the maximum you can apply for there, as well as public facilities. In public services, the maximum amount is $200,000, and we have a recovery center here in Christian County that takes advantage of that opportunity. The match requirements do vary for each of these funding categories, but it's typically somewhere in the range between 10% and 50%, with 50% for the public facilities projects. The application period for this year has been extended by about a month. It opened on April the 1st, and those community projects and public facilities applications will be due on September 1st, with the housing, economic development, public services, and SURF applications being due at the end of January of next year. And then finally, some other dates to remember on current openings. You all should have received a couple of emails, hopefully, from us on hazard mitigation grant funding programs. This is that $75 million that Ms. Martha Jane referenced. Those initial pre-applications or MAFs are due by this Friday, April the 15th, but we're trying to encourage everyone to get everything in by Thursday, since Friday is a holiday. Our recreational trails program, those applications will close on May the 31st, as well as the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Something to just put on your radar. We did receive an email from the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security. They're going to estimate their release date on their application program to be May the 13th. We will pass that information along as we get that, but they are going to have a 30-day turnaround on their application period. So it's estimated to open again on May the 13th with a closing on June the 13th. So with that short window of time, we wanted to put that on your radar so you could be thinking about those projects and getting information together for those to go in. Additionally, you should have intergovernmental review information. We've had a couple of projects submitted to the clearinghouse during the last month, and that information is in your packet for your review. Then finally, you should in your packet have a loan review data sheet. Our loan committee met back on March the 30th to review an application that was submitted to us from Central Screen Printing up in Central City. Chris and I had talked, and I think Jason would probably echo this. This was the most comprehensive and complete application we had ever seen come before our loan committee. So we were very impressed with the owners there of Central Screen Printing and the information that they submitted to us. That they did request a loan application for $200,000. This will be a partnership with Farmers Bank and Trust there in Central City, a total project of $858,335. Central Screen Printing is a family-owned business, started there in a garage in Central City in 1984, and they've been in business and since that time. They do contract screen printing, embroidery for large companies all over the U.S. and internationally as well. Last year, their sales totaled over $7.5 million. What they're looking at doing with this additional loan is to purchase new manufacturing equipment, a total of 4 new automatic printing presses with flash dryers, and then adding on to their building there with the construction of an additional 60 by 125 foot building expansion. Looking at creating 20 additional jobs with that expansion. And they have approached us to participate again with Farmers Bank for $200,000 for a loan at 4% for 10 years. Our collateral on this loan will be the first lien on the equipment finance. We will take a second mortgage behind Farmers Bank on the real estate. And then we'll have personal guarantees from the three owners, Josh, Nathan, and Jason Randall. Do you have any questions on this proposed loan before we take action on it? They seem to be a good, solid business, growing business.
All right, motion by Arthur Green to approve, second by Scott Marshall. Any questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, thank you. Now I'll ask Ms. Sheila Clark to come forward and present our workforce development update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to start out by just remembering a loss to our workforce family. If you have missed that piece of news, Julie Allen that worked with our youth and our program policies, laws, regulations. We suffered her loss on March the 19th. She died at Vanderbilt. She had been with the agency for 21 years and she was 51 years old. She had a 21-year-old daughter, Lauren, that has gone to live with family in Kansas City. And we are in the middle of youth review programs right now. So without her being here, it's been very difficult to get through that. And we continued to find things daily. Well, Julie knew that, or Julie had that. So we run into that just every day. But the workforce family is pulling together and trying to get things done. It took us about a week just to get all the passwords to the various programs that we needed together. But we are in hopes that we'll meet this next deadline that she was normally in charge of, and letting everybody take a role in it. So we just wanted to remember Julie and say how much we miss her. Life is short, but it's also very precious. So don't waste a minute. And moving on, talking about people, we have brought back a familiar face, Derek Poor, and working with our military transition of bringing veterans into our workforce. And Derek has been back with us for about 2 weeks. And next month, I'll let him talk to you for a few minutes about what his schedule is and how you can reach him, and if you'd like to involve him in activities. We also filled a temporary position that we have a contract for, working with the McCracken County Drug Court. We were in hopes that Christian County would get a drug court, but they haven't yet, but they're still working on it. But we do supply staff to one in McCracken County. And David Poole has filled that position for the last few weeks here. We have some other announcements of upcoming events, and some of these you'll find in your packet. You'll find about Jobs Fest. It's right behind the unemployment and workforce data. And that is Thursday, April the 28th. Southwest Kentucky Economic Development, the Boards of Education, Christian, Trigg, and Todd, special senior hiring event, trying to get those seniors that don't have plans for post-secondary education to look at local jobs in their communities. We also have job in Christian County and Trigg County coming up on April the 26th, and that would be high school seniors in the morning of that day, and then the general public can come in the afternoon. And you can go online with the Chamber of Commerce and work in getting your name registered for that event. And then we have our youth review that's coming up on April the 19th at 10 a.m. Here at the PAD office. George Radford is chair of the Workforce Board Youth Review Committee. We have 4 proposals that will be before the group for consideration. And we'll be meeting directly with those providers on those days and making comments on them. I'm going to ask Molly to speak if she'll make her way up here, and she'll tell you about a few more events and then some of her day-to-day activities in Hopkins County. But we're probably thinking that our next big board meeting will be the middle of May. Molly? She has lots of tidbits.
So the world of business services remains very fast paced and busy. There always seems to be new projects on the horizon, and doing that, new ways for us to help and get involved. Part of our job as business liaisons is using our connections with employers, the local school board, economic development in our community colleges to make sure everyone is on the same page. And if necessary, bring all the partners to the table to discuss new programs, new current offerings, and ensure that training is being offered. Conclude with individuals who are trained and ready to take on jobs that are available in the workforce. I've been at the table recently on a major project where these conversations are being had. There's a particular training gap in terms of what a certain employer in the community needs to meet performance and production measures. And this is not only affecting that particular employer, but the region as well. So that's why it's necessary to have these conversations with employers on workforce and what may be missing so we can try to find a solution. So that's a big part of what we do on the daily basis. The on-the-job training program is flourishing. I have found that since COVID, more employers are expressing an interest in utilizing the program. I've had one employer recently send over 100 candidates to be screened. Obviously, not all of them will be eligible for the program, but with us being able to reimburse employers 50% of an eligible individual's wages, this particular employer is going to really reap the benefits of that. If you know of an employer who might be interested, please send their information over to Tom, Marianne, or myself. Our fiscal year ends June 30th, but there's still time to participate, get folks screened, and found eligible for this program year. As Sheila mentioned, I wanted to just briefly go over some events that have been happening recently and also forthcoming. We've been holding some in-person job fairs and have found good response from both the employer side and job seeker side. We held a Muhlenberg County job fair back in February, and the individuals who showed up that day were ready to find employment. It was really encouraging to see. Some even stayed after the event to fill out applications and have interviews. One thing I noticed in talking to the job seekers who attended that day was that many of them had backgrounds that were preventing them from finding employment. So luckily, I was able to provide them some information about an expungement event we're actually holding in Madisonville at the end of this month on April 26th. I know many of you have heard that Tyson recently laid off about 200 folks. Many of them have backgrounds, as Tyson is a huge second chance employer in the area. So it's our hope that this event will really get folks back to work and in positions that they love. We've had a fantastic response from local agencies and regional partners to help plan this event. Background checks are going to be provided. And then thanks to the Hopkins County Law Library and Hopkins County Bar Association, the first 100 people from Hopkins County who attend will not have to pay the $40 fee for covering the certificate and actually filing the expungement. Those two organizations are covering the cost for that. We're very, very thankful. WellCare of Kentucky will assist with covering the application fee for anyone else who attends. Second Chance Employers and Resources will also be on site. So we really want anyone who attends to feel like they've gotten some answers and a direction to follow for actually expunging their records. There should be a flyer in the back of your packet, but if you need an electronic copy, feel free to contact me and I can get that over to you. On March 9th, we had employers from Muhlenberg and Hopkins County present at the UK College of Engineering campus in Paducah. It was a huge success, and all the employers who attended were actually able to fill internship slots that they had open with these students. I was really, really impressed with the caliber of students there at the UK College campus. They had really great questions to ask the employers. Their general engagement was really high. We plan to do a similar event this fall and hope to make it an annual event.
On March 30th, we held a exploration expo at the Hopkins County Career and Tech Center. Employers were able to engage with juniors and seniors from both high schools in the area who come there to attend classes. We actually asked recruiters from Webster Store, which is an employer in Hopkins County, to come and present to the students a few days before the event to show how you actually work a job fair as a student, how to ask engaging questions, and hopefully get an interview. In collaboration with Madisonville Hopkins County Economic Development, we're planning to hold a dinner on April 19th at the CTC, where we invite employers to attend, and then a select elite group of students from the CTC with their parents to attend the dinner as well. So it's our hope that these students, and then of course their parents, will have a chance to really network at this dinner and delve into the employment opportunities that are available after graduation. And as always, we are working the Fort Campbell circuit, providing employers opportunities to showcase their positions on post. As Sheila said, we are thrilled to have Derek back in his position. So if you need anything, please reach out to Derek, and he can reach out to Tom, Marion, and I if there's anything that we can help with as well. If there's no questions, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila and Molly, for your report. We'll move on now to new business. And first item is the ethics report. And I'm proud to say we've had no issues related to ethics for the past month. So we'll move right on then to our guest speakers. And we're glad to have with us today our chairs of the long-term recovery committees from a couple of our counties that have been dealing with the after effects and aftermath of the tornadoes from December. And first, I would like to ask that Freddie Mays with Muhlenberg County, please come forward, share a report. Thank you, sir.
I'll speak briefly on three different aspects of recovery in Muhlenberg County. The first, of course, was dealing directly with our families who had lost loved ones, had lost homes, had lost all of their material supplies and that sort of thing. And so we are fortunate that we already had our disaster recovery group up and running. We actually had formed in 2008 as a result of tornado and ice storm and even a windstorm during that period of time. And we kept that organization intact, although we were dormant. We maintained our 501c3 status and stayed legal throughout that period of time. So when the disaster was declared, I think the tornado happened on a Friday. On Sunday, our committee met for the first time. So we started reorganizing all of our volunteer groups, all of our subcommittees and that sort of thing to start work. And very shortly after that, we were able to start meeting with families. So we have now actually met with 95 different families in our community that suffered losses ranging from relatively small to total losses. And out of that, we've now closed a number of those cases, maybe a half a dozen cases, maybe even 10 or 12 of those cases have been closed. There are a number of cases that have been partially funded at this point. We kept those cases open for what takes place beyond where we are currently. And then the tougher part of what we're going to do is yet to occur. Those people that simply lost everything, they're still in the search stage on what their needs are going to be. Our role is unmet needs. So once they've dealt with their insurance companies, once they have met with FEMA, once Red Cross and other agencies have done all they can do, then we're left to deal with unmet needs. So many of these people don't yet know what their unmet needs are. And that's going to be the toughest part of what we do. At the same time, we have made progress. There's not anybody that's not placed somewhere in Muhlenberg County. Many of them had family and friends in the area, so they could actually house with them in the interim. And then as they've been able to move into new homes or rented homes or in different areas there, we've been able to help them to get settled. So progress, but a lot left to be done. The second part of that was we discovered at the time of the tornado that we couldn't sufficiently even take in all those items that were donated to us. People have been incredibly generous, just from all over the country. They volunteered their time, they volunteered the material things, and they volunteered lots of funds as well. Well, there were so many things being brought to us, we had no place to store them. So one of the things we were thinking about going forward was some sort of a warehouse. And we were able to actually lease warehouse space currently, but having something long-term for the next disaster that comes our way or our neighbors around about us, we were looking to do something to kind of develop a warehouse project. with a partnership with United Way and our county. We've actually secured funding to make that happen. In fact, we expect to receive funds next week in order to be able to initiate that process. So an idea of being prepared for whatever comes next was a second phase of what we're doing. The third phase is this. Jason had actually invited me to a meeting about 4 or 5 or 6 weeks ago with the federal folks here in the process or in this meeting in this place. And the idea is this: when our committee first met, we're thinking about dealing with families. Our long-term recovery was getting people in homes, getting them back in as near a situation pre-tornado as we could make it. As we talked with the federal folks, we discovered their idea of long-term is not a year or 2 years, it's 10, 15, 20 years out. Thinking in terms of infrastructure, thinking in terms of housing, thinking in terms of preparedness, thinking in terms of jobs and all that. So we made that connection as well. So in coming today, I'm happy to say that through the generosity of people all over our area, all across Kentucky, all across the United States, we think we're on our way to recovering from the tornado. But when you lose 11 lives, 90 people with total losses of homes and all their possessions, there's simply a lot of work to be done. So hopefully we'll be able to come back to you in the weeks and months to come to tell you that people have recovered from this and they're back in some sort of a normal routine. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer, but that's kind of the down and dirty of where we are currently. Jason, anything? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mays, and I'm sure Judge McGee and Mayor Yantz and others are so proud of the work that you and your group has done on behalf of Muhlenberg County. Next, I would like to ask for Mr. Mike Duncan with Hopkins County to come forward and offer his report, please.
I'd like to echo a few of the things Mr. Mays has said, and we're working along the same lines of what they are doing. Long-term recovery in Hopkins County had not been around for a while, had been dormant for a while since about 2005 tornado, but we were able to pick that up and to again have our 501c3 organization and move that forward. Had our first meeting in January. Myself and Heath Duncan were chosen as co-chairs, or either we were coerced by the judge executive from Hopkins County, one of those two. We were both Duncans, and I've said in a few places that Heath is not my son because both of my children turned out all right. So, but Heath is our local director. A lot of you know here in Christian County too that he is that director for Habitat for Humanity, and so he's not able to be here today because he's in Atlanta at the national meeting of Habitat for Humanity. So, I'm filling in for him. We organized the executive committee, as all of them have, try to take stakeholders around in the local community. We developed our subcommittees. We went through various things, for opening up post office box, getting bank accounts. We partnered with PAD here to help us financially to keep us out of jail, I guess, so they could write checks. We'd tell them what we wanted to, and we'd go from there. So the money did not pass directly through our hands. Did secure an office area in Dawson Springs in the old city building. We've got a couple of offices there that we're working on supplying. Again, PAD helped us with some surplus equipment and chairs and so forth they had, and we're able to use that. Hardest thing about all of this, I guess in Hopkins County, you've got 1,400 cases that have applied for FEMA or worked with Red Cross. So it's not a short, not a little list there, trying to get to them, trying to have caseworkers. Everybody needs a case, where it's individual, family, or whatever. So we work with Catholic Diocese on training caseworkers, working with volunteers first right now, and possibility, few professionals that are working with this, but it's it's the hard part. Everybody wants something done. We want something done, but everybody has to have a case worked on. You have to have paperwork. You got to back up. You got to know if they're getting FEMA, if they're getting insurance, what they're getting, so you can move forward. Again, as Mr. Mays said, the unmet need, trying to direct them in the right direction. We did receive some money. Hopkins County with a disaster relief fund were able to allocate that money to us. We are getting a couple other sources. I've sort of equated the long-term disaster recovery committee of trying to start a business with all volunteers, trying to get everybody. We've been meeting like every week, an organizational meeting going over what everybody's doing, what in different communities. The county government has helped us by one of the emergency management gentlemen, Jesse Breedlove, has been a great help, helping work with volunteers. Of course, as you say, you get all kinds of volunteers and equipment, but they all want to come in at once. So we pushed them off, trying to schedule them to come in from demolition to pick up everything necessary. And we'll still use a lot of those and still trying to schedule those. We did working with Red Cross. We're trying to receive some money they have. We've applied for money for a construction manager and for caseworkers, some caseworkers that can work all the time with that. And we're looking also at like an assistant administrative person, somebody that can be there in the office all the time, answering the telephone, watching the computer, answering all those questions. And so we are working on those things. We are advertising. Hopefully by next week, we're going to have a couple of those positions hired so they can start full time. Again, we had the same problem Muhlenberg County had, all this donations coming in. Where are you going to put it? Every barn, every side building, it's full of stuff that people have donated, but they've run out of space. And some places during the tornado are gone, so you don't have places. So we have partnered with United Way to help build a building in our Barnsley area. For ones of you don't know where that is, between Arlington and Morton's Gap is an area of Hopkins County besides Dawson Springs that it came through and destroyed several houses. So we're working on, should receive that money. As soon as we do, we're ready to move forward to have this building for donations, and then we can allocate them as they come along. We've also worked with emotional and spiritual health with our Little Bethel Baptist Association and with our Pennyrile Mental Health Association, working with families and children and counseling and so forth like that. We did last Thursday at the Dawson Springs City Hall in the council, we had what we called a blitz. We had several volunteers that came, some caseworkers, some others. We took lists from Red Cross list, and we started calling people and doing intake, asking what they got from FEMA, what they got from insurance, where they were living, what the situation, how many people. Basically, to get the case management start, you got to have somewhere to start. So we're trying to do our best. I don't know the number that we did that day, but we had 12 or 15 people most of the day calling people. I myself know that during that time, I contacted about 9 or 10 people and got all the information. So we got it started to let them know we are out there and we are going to help you. We're just trying to get to everybody. So like I say, we're ready to hire a construction manager. Think we have one, and ready to hire administrative person. And we're working on case managers, but it's going to be, I've told people it's not weeks, it's months and years to meet these needs. And we're going to try to be here to help people the best we can. So do you have any questions? Thank you.
I think you all will echo my thoughts and that we have the right leadership in place to lead these long-term recovery groups. You can tell the passion in their voice that they definitely are there to help folks and to make sure that our communities recover from those horrific events. Thank you all for doing what you're doing. And we look forward to hearing from you again as you progress through the recovery efforts. Let's give them a round of applause if you don't mind. Tim, if you could turn on the PowerPoint presentation. while he's doing that, I can't say it much better than what Sheila did about Julie. But one thing I will say is that when it came to Julie, she wanted to help everyone. And there are a lot of folks throughout this region that received assistance from Julie, probably during some of their darkest times when they were probably laid off from their jobs at no fault of their own. And she always stepped forward to do what she needed to do to help those folks. So we are certainly going to miss her. You might just have to forward that for me, Tim. Technology at its best, right? Aha. I think we're getting close. Go ahead to the next one. Maybe not. While we're doing that, while he's getting that fixed, my first slide was going to have to do with the NATO policy, the Washington Policy Conference that several of your fellow board members attended a few weeks ago. You can, oh, here we go. You can see here the picture of the crew that represented you all in DC. We had a lot of great discussion with our congressional representatives. And as I said earlier, we did get to meet with all three of them. We also, and I think Jason Hassard is still on here, we also had a personal tour of the Capitol from Senator Paul. And that was somewhat interesting as we were in there all by ourselves. I mean, there was maybe a few other people roaming around the Capitol, but it was just us in there, and that was interesting to be there at that moment. But we spent a lot of time talking with our representatives about the programs that support your community, support your cities and counties. And we are fortunate that all of our representatives there in Washington support all of those programs, and they committed to continuing that support. But I'm going to stop here because I know we have at least one report from the trip from our board members. But I'll open it up to if there's any comments that any of those that attended would like to make. Everybody's looking at Mama Jan. Uh-oh, let's give her a microphone here. Hold up.
That's what happens when you're the oldest one on the trip. They think you're their mama. Thanks to Judge Whitfield and Kevin Cotton. Yes. But anyway, Jason already has said, we had a great meeting with our congressional delegation, and plus the fact we got to meet with them all in person, which was, a first for us, I think, in a long time. But one of the three things, our three topics were disaster relief, trying to get the GI Bill for our aeronautics program in Hopkins County and Muhlenberg County, and also abandoned mine land, money for abandoned mine land. And anyway, as all you know, especially Hopkins and Muhlenberg County have got a lot of abandoned mine land, and we need money to be able to use that land. That was on Tuesday. That was our meetings with our congressional delegation. But on Monday, we had meetings, and those meetings pertain to ARPA, economic development. But I think the most interesting session was the one on the political landscape of 2022. And I think anybody that was there that listened to that, I think we've got a lot to be watching for this fall in the election. But anyway, thank you to Amy and Jason for making this another very good trip for us. But the one thing I want to leave on is Wade White. He can go to those congressional meetings. He does not have to open his mouth. They can look at him and know he's going to talk about land between the lakes and carp. So anyway, and everybody knows that Wade is not going to run for reelection. So Lee Wilson and I decided we needed to have a statue of Wade White holding a carp. So anyway, I guess I'm going to let Lee be in charge of the GoFundMe page so that we can get money for this statue of Wade White. Yeah, we'll get those out. We looked, and that was one of the things as we were looking through the Capitol, what kind of material we needed for the statue. And, but as you can see, we not only learn a lot, we do have a good time and, get to know each other well.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for attending and representing the Pennyrile. All right, there we are. In your packet, you will find some budget amendments. The executive committee met a few weeks ago to review just a few minor budget amendments, and we need to bring that before your all's approval today. As I said, you will find our typical revenue and expense breakdown in your packet. And the items that are requiring amendments have a yellow highlighted number 1 next to them. Basically, there's only 3 items. Line number 17 is additional funding from the U.S. Aging Vaccine Grant. Line number 31 is additional funding from DOL for tornado recovery efforts on the workforce side of things. And then line number 52 is just a pass-through for Todd County Fiscal Court for TVA funds that they had received to acquire some property. There are no amendments, Alicia, if I'm correct, on the expense side of things. But if there are no questions, Mr. Chairman, I will need the board to approve those amendments.
Seeing the budget amendments presented before you, do I have a motion to approve the budget as amended? Mayor Jan Yance, did I have a second? All right, second by Jack Whitfield. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, thank you.
I've already mentioned the successful legislative session, but I did just want to throw a slide up there that showed you the impact of what they did in Frankfort for the area development districts. House Bill 482, which I talked with you all about at our last board meeting, which basically codified the JFA funding formula into state statute. You can see how those funds are distributed amongst the ads by the 70-20-10 split. And what this does for us is it stabilizes the funding for the area development districts and how that is split amongst all the ads. So that was great to have House Bill 482 and codify that JFA funding formula. And then I've already talked about the free conference budget, the area development district funding, the doubling of the state funds for the JFA. That's where you see that $3.9 million figure. And then also they put in the budget $250,000 additional dollars to assist with the Delta Regional Authority grant program that Amy has already talked about earlier in the meeting. So again, a great session. And a great session for the area development districts. And we very much appreciate the support that our legislators have for the area development districts. This was just to remind me to draw your all's attention to all of the meetings that are coming up this next month. This is in your packet. And I know a lot of these meetings had already been mentioned previously. And then finally, I wanted to introduce, and I'm happy to introduce Melissa Thompson. as our new communications director. Hopefully you all saw the press release that went out on April the 1st, as well as our social media post. And we're extremely excited to have Melissa in this role. She's got a big role to fill, and she's going to be handling all of our internal and external communications for our agency. Will be assisting me as well as meeting the needs of our entire management team, providing support to you all, our board, and then we'll also be helping us on the human resource front as well. So big congratulations to Melissa. So congratulations. Join me in recognizing her. Are there any questions for me or anybody else? Thank you all for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, thank you, Jason. And as Jason mentioned earlier, in thanking our legislators for the funding increases and the impact that will have, he mentioned now it's up to them to get to work. I don't know what he's been thinking about, but I know all these guys do a lot of great work throughout the year, and I know Jason knows that as well. I've said ever since I've been elected that I think we've got the best ad in the state and the hardest working group of people that help us on a daily basis. And I just want to thank y'all for that and congratulate you on the funding and look forward to the increased work, I guess, Jason. So that being said, does anyone have any other business come before the board? All right, hearing none to, oh.
Others that assisted us in Caldwell County. The Caldwell Line Cattlemen's Association has gotten in contact with me and wants to know if we could come up with some maps of the storm damage on the agriculture end. There were miles and miles of fencing that had been destroyed as a result of the tornado. Something that I hadn't even considered, but I was able to get in contact with Kyle, and they provided us a great number of maps that assisted with that project in the cleanup and reconstruction of a lot of those fences. And I know that the Caldwell Line Cattlemen's Association certainly appreciates it. It did involve some in Hopkins County as well. But I just wanted to thank Kyle for all his help with that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Williams, for pointing that out. All right, anything else from anyone? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? All right, motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.